All right, so let me just set this down here. Whoops. All right, hello.
Hi guys. What's going on, everybody?
All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you. We just want to try and give a little bit of time so that everybody can join us. My name is Jillian. I'm the founder of Sharks for Kids, and I'm really excited to be back here. How's your laugh?
I'm not laughing. I can talk very fast. Well, so we're there, but I can't.
But I can't hear anything.
No. Big girl.
We're not muted. Oh, communication. No, we're not muted. Speakers.
Miss April, did you check your speakers if they're on?
No, they're not. Can't hear you. We're not muted. You. Hang on. Let me see, Julie. Okay. All right. So we just muted everybody for the time being, and then you can unmute once we introduce the class. But we're really excited to be here at the Bimini Sharklab for our Shark Science Google Hangout. So we've got a great team here. We've got some great classrooms. And today we're going to dive into the world of shark science, what it means, how we do it, the equipment that we use, and we have a very special guest. But I'm going to go ahead and let the team introduce themselves so we can get started.
Hi guys, my name is Chessie. I'm from London, England, and I am a volunteer intern at Bimini Biological Field Station or Bimini Sharklab, and I'm here to assist with the ongoing research at the lab and be of general help to all the scientists coming through.
Good morning, guys. My name is Colin Davis. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and I am the outreach coordinator at the station. My goal here is to take all the cool sciencey data collection that we're putting out in scientific papers and whatnot, and to break it down in an exciting, energetic way to the general public. So through tours, research experiences, and our fantastic Google Hangouts like this.
Well, all right, so we're going to meet our classrooms now. When I say your name, if you guys want to unmute and give a big shout out to everyone else who's watching, we have Mrs. Molina's second grade class from Kentucky.
Say hello.
Hi. Hi. Yes. Right. We also have Miss Eagle's class in San Antonio, Texas. We're excited about sharks. We have Mrs. McElhenney's grade 1 students at St. Mary's School in Elora. Okay, we see you guys, but we can't hear you. But we can see you though, and hopefully you can hear us. And then we have Mrs. Hathorn's students at Terra Oaks Elementary. Hi. Right, and then unfortunately Mrs. Wilson had to go. So again, my name is Jillian, and we are here at the Bimini Biological Field Station, or the Sharklab, located on the South Island of Bimini in the Bahamas. We're about 50 miles from the state of Florida, and this place was built in 1990 by Doc Gruber as a base for his research on lemon sharks. That's really been the species that they've focused on here, but they also work with tiger sharks, great hammerheads, bull sharks, nurse sharks, and since this place was created, it's really been a leader in shark science around the world. You might have seen it on a Shark Week show or a documentary. Really incredible information has been learned about sharks right here. Things like their behavior, personalities, the way they give birth, and some really interesting kind of migration movements as well. So today we're going to introduce you to a very special friend. Out behind the Shark Lab, there's a fenced-in area, but instead of being in a field, it's actually in the ocean. And in that fenced-in area, the lab has juvenile or young lemon and nurse sharks. And they stay there for about 30 days, and then they're released back in the place they were caught. And the reason they're there is, one, to help volunteers, interns, visiting scientists learn a little bit about handling the sharks and how to do it safely. And for visitors. So if you come to Bimini, you can actually come to the Shark Lab and take a tour, or they have research experiences available for students a bit older, but something to kind of think about, and we'll give you a website link at the end you can check out. And so really a great educational tool for people to visit, see these animals, and learn about the research being done here. So we're gonna meet our special guest. We're gonna talk a little bit about some of the equipment and then actually take you through what's called a scientific workup. This is the data collection or the information that scientists collect from a shark once they've caught it. And it's really, really important to have this information because it helps us understand these animals. And in order to protect an animal or a species, we have to know about it. Where does it go? What habitats does it use? What food does it eat? Okay, what are its migration patterns? Where is it moving? And this data is really important to get laws put in place to protect animals. So the Sharklab has been a big part of getting a shark sanctuary established here in the Bahamas. So it's actually illegal to target and catch sharks without special scientific permits. They've also helped get better protections for certain species like Lennon sharks in Florida. So this science directly leads to conservation. And unfortunately, 25% of all sharks and rays are threatened with extinction. So if we want to keep that number from getting higher and also change the status, the conservation status that an animal is listed at, are they endangered? Are they vulnerable? If we want to change that, we really need to understand them. We need to study them to make conservation possible. All right, so without further ado, we're going to meet our special friend. All right, I know. All right, here. All right. Everyone say hello to our friend, the nurse shark. All right, and you're probably immediately noticing that shark looks very different than some of the other sharks you've probably seen. It doesn't have a big pointy nose or a really big triangular dorsal fin. So the first thing we're going to do is take you through the anatomy of the shark and talk about some of those special features that make this animal actually really unique. It's definitely still a shark, but it's got some really cool features we're going to share with you.
All right, guys, I'm going to take you through a little workup of the shark. So I'm going to step into the little shark water thing here. I'm going to lift this little guy up to show you. So this is the little nurse shark. It's very different, doesn't it? Like Jill said. So there are over actually 500 different species of shark, and all of them have slightly different features and adaptations. So I'm going to talk you through some of the ones that the nurse shark has. So if I lift it up again, you can see it's a very flat looking shark. Can you see that? And that indicates how it lives its life. It actually is a benthic species, so it lives its life at the bottom. It likes to hang out under coral ledges, which is where we find these little guys, especially when they're juveniles, and just take it and live its life nice and slowly at the bottom. So I'm going to start at the front, and we're going to go through and show you kind of all the different features this little nurse shark has. The first thing I want to draw your attention to is, can you guys see this little mustache thing on its nose here? Just the two little dangly things that are dangling down. That is something. These are called barbels, and they're sensory organs that the shark uses to find out prey. So it pairs this with something called the ampullae of Lorenzini. This is like jelly-filled pores all around the snout and the nose of the shark. Now, if you guys all close your eyes and feel your heartbeat, can you guys all do that and feel your pulse? You can feel it beating, can't you? Yeah? So what these sharks do is those little pores, that allows them to feel out prey that think they're being really clever and hiding in the sand or under ledges or something like that. This shark can actually sense them out, which is pretty cool. Drawing you guys down to the next little feature of it, can you guys see its mouth? It doesn't really have lots of teeth that you see in a lot of sharks, kind of on Shark Week or in pictures and everything. I'm just going to pop the shark down so it can have a little bit of a breath and talk to you about its mouth. What this shark actually has is something called grinding plates. It's a suction feeder. So what the shark does is it feeds on stuff like crustaceans, crabs, small fish as well, and conch here in the Bahamas is definitely a favorite. And it sucks its food into its mouth and it actually grinds down with those plates at the back of its mouth. And that's how it eats its food. So a little bit different from something like a great white you might have seen on Shark Week or something that has the big teeth. That's how that shark kind of feeds on its prey. Looking at the shark again, can you guys see the little gills here? If I can hold it up, it's got 5 gill slits, and it does something really unique, which makes it perfect for being in our pen. It does something called buccal pumping, and that is when it can gulp water into its mouth and breathe by kind of opening those kind of gills. Have you guys heard that some sharks need to swim to move around? This shark doesn't. Because it can sculpt water in and breathe and do this simple buccal pumping, it doesn't need to swim around to breathe, which makes it perfect for being in our pens. Now, can you guys see its eyes? It's got very small eyes, doesn't it? I'm sure you've seen, like I said, all the pictures of other sharks. They've got these big eyes. This kind of indicates that how the shark lives its life. It's got small white eyes on the top of its head. They're not very big, so they don't get kind of caught under coral ledges and get scraped and everything like that. And it doesn't have something called a membrane. Sometimes in pictures of sharks, you can see kind of a lid coming across the eye when it bites down on stuff. These sharks don't have that. And the whiteness indicates kind of that they're more active at night. They like to go and feed and hang out around more at night time. Now, I'm going to give it a little bit of a little breather, and we'll work down the shark a bit. So, can you guys see all its fins? It's got its pectoral fins just here. They're very, very soft fins that allow it to prop itself up when it's kind of at the bottom. It's also got 2 dorsal fins, and it's got, can you guys see the tail? Unlike some species, it doesn't have a lower lobe to its tail. It's just got an upper lobe. That kind of indicates, again, how it lives its life. It's very slow moving, chilled at the bottom, kind of swimming around very nice and slowly. It doesn't need fast speed like some other species to catch its prey. So it doesn't need that lower lobe and that muscle to kind of to swim around to catch fast moving fish and stuff. The final thing I want to point out to you guys is the skin. This shark has a very kind of rough skin. It feels a little bit like sandpaper. And that's because it has something called dermal denticles, which are actually teeth, tiny little teeth all across its skin. And that protects its skin from the environment in which it lives its life. Like I said, it likes to hang out underneath little ledges and everything like that. So it can't have super soft skin, otherwise it would hurt itself all the time. Pretty cool, right? Yeah? I'm going to pass you now over to one of the other guys, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about some of the tags that we use here at the lab to do our research.
All right, so now that we've learned a little bit about this shark and the body, we're going to talk about some of the tags that we use. So think of tags as a name tag. All right, we each have a name. So when we catch sharks, and scientists catch a lot of sharks, you can't remember all of them, and we couldn't put like a sticker name tag. So there are different tags that we can use to identify each individual animal. There's some tags that are very basic, very small, and other tags that have a lot of technology. They're pretty amazing. And as cameras and computers and phones and technology changes and it's advancing, it's getting better, so isn't our ability to create new tags to study sharks. So the first tag we're going to look at, every single shark caught here in Bimini gets one of these. It's called a pit tag. All right. It's very, very small. Okay, you can see there. It's kind of like a grain of rice. Now, this is the exact same thing. If your pet is microchipped at home, it has this inside of it with your family. It's kind of a little chip with your family's information, phone number, address. If your cat or dog gets lost, the Humane Society or the vet can scan that, get your information, and your cat can get returned. Now, we're not using them to try and return the sharks, but it is a great tool. It helps us put a tiny ID marker inside each one. You can think of it sort of like a barcode for a shark. Every item when you go to the grocery store and it beeps over the register has that little black and white code on the back. This is pretty much the same thing for sharks. Very easy. We just inject it just under the dorsal fin with a syringe. If you guys have had a shot at the doctor's office before, same kind of thing, but just injecting that tiny little chip inside the shark. All right, another type of tag we can use is called a Casey tag. They're also called dart tags or spaghetti tags because they're long and kind of thin like spaghetti. And there's some numbers on there you can see. So each one has its own number. When the shark is caught, all the information is written down, size, the things we're going to talk about in the workup. And this attaches just under the dorsal fin. We don't leave the paper on. And the shark swims away. So if somebody else catches the shark, they can look at that number. There's actually a tiny piece of paper in there with contact information. So you can contact a phone number or email and let them know, okay, I saw this shark, I caught it, I measured it, I released it. Or another scientist can contact and say, hey, I caught your shark, and it was in Florida, and I know you guys tagged it in Bimini. So it really helps us kind of look at growth rates. So when we catch the shark again, is it bigger? And also migration, movement. Is the shark in the same place? Now, Now, as we keep going, the tags get a little bit fancier. So this first one is kind of like Fitbit for sharks, right? So if you guys have those bracelets or somebody at home has one that counts your steps, this is pretty much the same thing, but the shark's not walking around, but its tail is moving. So this can actually count tail beats and see acceleration, how fast the shark is moving and when it's moving. So sharks will be either swimming after their prey or swimming away to try and not become lunch. So it helps us understand how much of their time they're spent doing different activities. Just like a Fitbit counts our steps, our exercise, our calories, things like that. Pretty amazing to have a Fitbit for sharks. This next tag is an acoustic tag, meaning it makes a noise, sort of like a ringtone. Each one has a unique ringtone. This can be attached on the outside of the shark with a special attachment point. It's got a different covering on it, or inside the shark. So we can flip the shark over and put it in a sleep-like state called tonic immobility, and we can actually make an incision and insert this. Now, this is a much larger tag than we would use on this size shark. This would go in a big, maybe 12 or 13-foot tiger shark, and it gives off a signal. And as the shark's swimming around, all around Bimini, the coast of Florida, all over the world, different areas, they have these underwater receivers or listening stations, and all they do is listen for those tags. So when an animal swims by with that tag, it makes its noise, the receiver records it, the time, the date, the water temperature, and the animal. So these help us understand how often a shark is in that area, right? Are they showing up every day at 3 o'clock? Are they spending 2 hours? Do they come, every once a week? And who are they hanging out with? Do they have friends? Right? Sometimes people say sharks are not social or they're not intelligent. They're actually extremely intelligent animals, and some of them are very social. They have best buddies that they hang out with. So the last tag is pretty cool because it is like putting an iPhone on a shark. All right, this is a satellite tag, a type of satellite tag. So there's a mini computer. These are batteries that power the computer. It goes on the dorsal fin, and the shark swims away. And this one's programmed for about 4 years to tell us where the shark is. Just like a phone gives you a GPS coordinate where you are, or gives you directions as you're navigating through, this antenna transmits a location to satellites, and this tag emails us. So our shark is emailing us, which is pretty amazing. And it helps us to see where they go, right? The other smaller tags really are very basic, and we have to catch the animal again to get any new information. This tag, even if we never see the shark again, can tell us a lot about the animal's movement, the habitats they're using, the depth that they might be exploring. Just really gives us kind of a glimpse into the life of these animals. Again, understanding them, making it easier for us to put conservation efforts in place that will actually make an impact. So all these tags are quite different, and they're placed once we've caught the shark. So there's different techniques for catching the animals, all really designed to specifically minimize the stress, to make it easier on the animal, because we can't explain to them what we're doing. So once the animal is caught, then there's a specific data collection. Think of it as like going to the doctor and getting a physical or checkup, right? So it's kind of a checkup for the shark to collect some information. So these guys are actually going to go through, imagine this shark is caught. Now we're going to collect the data so you can see actually what scientists do once they have the animal.
Hi guys. So tagging in, as Jillian was saying, we are, regardless of any of our 9 species of sharks that we find commonly around Bimini, regardless of what age group they fall in, and where they're captured, we are going to undergo what's known as a workup, or a collection of physiological and genetic data that we can take on each of our individuals. Our physiological samples include our lengths and girths, so you guys can get a sense of, or so that we could gather a sense of how the shark's doing, how its general health is, and especially if we recapture the shark, we can gauge a sense of how quickly it's grown and how healthy it has become as an individual. And with our genetic sampling, we are actually going to take a bit for DNA so that we can build familial trees, which is big for our lemon sharks here, who return just about every year to bear their young in the exact same spots that they were born. And we can also take another measurement of the stable isotopes to gauge what the shark's eating and where it falls within the food chain. So the first thing I'm going to do is get our measuring trough. So for our juvenile sharks, they're actually going to fit in this little piece of equipment. And as you can see along the bottom here, there's some measuring tape. So when we take our length measurements, we have a very good visual ID of where this shark is or how long the shark is, rather. And we're actually going to fill this up with water right now so that our happy little nurse shark here has a good supply of oxygen-rich water so that it's happy, healthy, and ready to get some measurements. Good stuff. Now I'm going to introduce this nurse shark to the measuring trough. Cool. So it fits just like this within here. Actually, just can you tilt that down just a bit, maybe? Let's see. There we go. Beautiful. So there's our nurse shark in the trough, ready to start his workup. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually look for that pit tag that Jillian was talking about. That barcode, it essentially gives the shark a fingerprint, so we know whether the shark has been captured before by the station. So I'm going to take a pit tag reader here, and I'm going to run it alongside the dorsal fin. And you see that it actually has a number that shows up, a multi-digit code, so that we know that the shark has a pit tag in it. We know that we've captured it before, and we can go back within our databases to see how the shark is doing at this point. The next thing I'm going to do is take some measurements along the shark to see its total lengths. So with our nurse shark, we're actually going to do 2 measurements ranging from the snout. As you can see, Chessie has the shark with its snout just at the end here. So I'm going to look at that and first go to our pre-caudal or pre-tail measurement. There's a little notch that rests just here. And I'm going to put my handy dandy scalpel handle here and see that our pre-caudal measurement lies at about 45 centimeters. The next measurement I'm going to take is the total length of the shark. So from snout all the way to the tip of the caudal or the tail fin. We'll do that. And we look to be at about 62.4 centimeters. Now, with most of our other shark species, there's actually going to be a third measurement that we're going to take into account as well. That would be the fork length of the tail. But as Chessie went over in the anatomy, a nurse shark doesn't need a lower lobe on its tail because being a benthic or bottom-dwelling species, it's not going to need too much use for movement. So this nurse shark's only going to get that pre-caudal and total length all the way to the end of its tail. Next, we are going to go with a girth measurement, or essentially give the shark a nice little belt to see how rounded out it is. That can help us gauge, additionally, the health of the shark as well. So what I'm going to do is take my measuring tape here. I'm going to slide it just under the nurse shark, go just under the armpits, pinch it off, and I see that our shark has a girth of 21.5 centimeters. So a healthy little juvenile. Next, what we would do is look for our genetic sampling, so our DNA and stable isotopes. So we're going to use a little piece or a little pair of scissors and go just behind the dorsal fin here. So just raise that real quick. Just behind here, we're going to take a little bit of the trailing side of that dorsal fin, about half the size of your pinky nail. It's kind of resemblant to picking out a fingernail or to remove a little bit of fingernail so the shark is not hurt. And that's going to contribute to that genetic database that we have on our sharks, so we can see what sharks are returning, who's who around the island, who are their brothers and sisters, some really neat stuff. And after that, in other shark species, we're going to look at our trailing edge behind the other dorsal fin, just a little extra piece of skin behind. Take a little sample of that, and we can gauge that stable isotope or compound concentrations to see what the shark's eating, where they're feeding at, and where they fall within the food chain, which is really, really neat. And actually something else that we can do when we look at the shark is determine whether it's a boy or a girl. So, Chessie, if you could lift that shark up. So how we're going to do that is we're going to look just in between the pelvic fins here. And if we go zoom in, there's 2 little fleshy projections here. Those are known as claspers, and that IDs this little nurse shark is a male. male specimen. They're really nice. So now we have our length measurements, our girth measurements. We know it's a little boy. We have our DNA, our stable isotope, and we know we have a recaptured shark. So we have a continually growing information set for this little specimen here, which we're really excited about. We can't wait to see this little shark grow nice, big, and strong.
Gonna put the shark back in the tub now. Say bye to everyone.
All right. All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed actually getting to see what is done, even out, if you imagine going out the boats, catching the shark, bring the shark alongside the boat, even if it's a very big shark or small shark, and collect this information. It's really, really important. Very basic. You know, we can use different tags and do other questions and kind of study different elements, but these are really just the basic things that we want to have about every single shark to, again, gain a better understanding of a lot about that specific animal or that specific species. All right, so now we're going to move through each class and we'll do 2 questions. So once we call in your class, if you want to unmute your microphone, ask your questions, and then we'll move on to the next one. So our first group, Mrs. Molina's class, do you have some questions for us?
Kira, sit down, honey. Oh, okay, go ahead, let's carry on.
How long do sharks live?
Most of the sharks, I think, sharks can live great 8 to 7 years. The Greenland shark, and they can live anywhere from about 275 up to 500 years, which is incredible. That makes them the longest living vertebrate animal alive today that we know of, which is amazing. Great question. Do you guys have one more?
What is a shark's predator?
Oh, good question. So you want to, what sharks predators? So sharks aren't always apex predators in the food chain. When they're juveniles, like this little nurse shark here, you can see how small they are. So actually, there are other things that are bigger than them that can eat them when they're this size. So for example, like large grouper, barracuda, or even other bigger sharks. However, when they do get older, a lot of them do become apex predators. However, there are cases recorded of, for example, orcas predating on great white sharks, but really the biggest indicator and predator on these sharks is actually us. It's us through different means and different activities like overfishing and catching these sharks that are really the biggest kind of predators in that sense of sharks.
Great questions. All right, we're going to go on to Miss Eagle's class. Do you have some questions for us?
If I were ever attacked by a shark, what would I do?
We hear a lot of things on TV and internet about monster sharks, man-eaters. Bites are very, very rare, extremely rare, but unfortunately they make the news and they're spread wide and sort of this monster mentality. But think about it. If the shark is taking a test bite, remember, they don't have hands or fishing poles or tools to use. Their mouth to catch their food and to eat it. So if they had a test bite, a lot of times people say kind of typical eyes and gills. Just imagine you would like it if you got punched in the face. So those are things. Again, it's not something about if you go in the ocean. It's very, very rare. And if you have been in the ocean, there's probably a shark around, and it didn't bother you, it's kind of away from you, or maybe you're lucky enough to actually. So not something to really worry about. It's very, very rare. We do want to respect them. They are wild animals. We do want to admit that, but you don't have to have this sort of fear of it.
Have y'all ever been hurt or injured by a shark?
Everybody. Diving with them, handling them, working with them. Quick bites, ulcers, tiger sharks, hammerheads, and yeah. So it's again, it's very, very rare.
fair. Everything's fair.
Great question.
Yeah.
All right. So, Miss McElhenney's class, do you have a couple of questions for us? We can't hear you guys. Can you type your question into the chat bar? Yeah, we can't hear you guys. We can see you, but if you just want to go ahead and type your question in, then we can answer it. I'm not sure if you guys can hear us, but if you want to just on the side, there's a little chat bar. If you want to go ahead and type your questions in there, then we can see them. We actually can't hear you. All right, well, we're going to move on to Mrs. Hathorn's class. Do you have a couple of questions for us?
Go ahead.
Why is the bull shark called a bull shark?
A bull shark.
Bull shark? Well, part of it is their size and shape. They're kind of big and bullish, like if you've ever seen a bull out in a field. So it's kind of, and also their behavior as well, but it's really based on kind of their shape. If you think about looking underwater, the way they swim and everything. And most sharks are named for kind of a characteristic, something on their body, whether it's stripes or coloration or size or behavior. So it's sort of kind of their size and most of their movement that really, if you see them swim underwater, they really do. They kind of swim along like this and look a bit like a bull. They're very like a bull as well. Great question. Do you guys have another one?
Really loud.
Is a blue whale bigger than a shark?
Yes. So our blue whales are actually the largest marine organism on the planet. They top out at 80 to 90. They're massive creatures. But there are some very, very large shark species as well. So for example, like a whale shark can grow to about 35 to 40 feet. Massive. But what's really neat about that particular species is that even though it's the largest shark, one of the other largest animals in the sea, it feeds on planktonic, or some of the smallest microorganisms available. And they actually filter feed it through their gills, swimming mouth agape, taking in gallons and gallons and gallons of water to filter feed out that tiny bit of prey, which is very, very, very neat.
They're definitely gentle giants.
Gentle giants.
Right. Well, thank you guys so much. If you do have other questions, we encourage you to send them over. Sorry, Miss Eagles class, we can't hear you, and I don't see any messages in the chat box as well. So if you do have questions, please send them along, and we will happily answer them. But we thank everyone for joining us today. You can check out www.BiminiSharklab to learn more .com about the research being done here, to check out the Adopt a Shark program, which is really cool. And just to find out more about the research that's happening, you can also check out www.sharksforkids.com to dive even deeper into the world of these animals with curriculum and different activities and videos. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
Take care, guys. Thank you so much.